Hi, I'm Carrie Pacini,
And I'm Laura Mays.
and we're the co-founders of Moms 2.0 and the Moms 2.0 Summit.
You're listening to us on That's Total Mom Sense.
Hi, I'm Gabby Bernstein.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa.
Hi, I'm Farnoosh Tarabi.
Hi, this is Chriselle Lynn, and you're listening to me on
That's
Total
Total
Mom
Mom
Sense.
Sense.
I want lipsticks for everyone. Even when I was making foundations.
We've been building these direct-to-consumer media brands, and I really thought there was a space for a more storytelling, premium-led video brand for women.
Started a beauty brand out of my apartment, and now to be a Black female founder at Unilever, there's been some incredible key learnings.
Perception that motherhood softens you. It has softened me towards them.
Right.
But it has toughened me like nobody's business.
I believe parents have a superpower, our intuition. I call it our mom sense, and it applies to dads too. Hi, I'm Kanika. I love storytelling and a good interview. I began my career as a television anchor and executive producer for CNN. I am now an entrepreneur and podcaster. What am I most proud of? Being a mom of 3, including twins. Tune in wherever you listen to podcasts and on my website, kanikachadagupta.com, and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Stay strong and see you soon. If you're a mom, you probably already have heard of and have been to Mom 2.0, which is the premier summit nationwide to help connect mothers in marketing, media, and now the metaverse. I remember having a photo of the Mom 2.0 logo on my vision board, and it was so wonderful to see it through fruition when I met the founders, Laura and Carrie, last year at the summit in LA. And I was invited as a speaker and even got to do interviews with Kelly Rowland and America Ferrera for sponsors March of Dimes and the White House. It was incredible to say the least. And so I am so honored to have on the masterminds behind it all, Laura Mays and Carrie Pacini.
Hi.
Hello.
I want to give a quick backstory on who you are and how it all started. Laura Mays is an Emmy-winning writer. She oversees influencer development, community management, programming, communications, and content for Mom 2.0. And over the last decade, she's created numerous industry conferences, digital networks, brand events, product launches, and exhibitions nationwide, and has been profiled in the New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, The Today Show, Rachael Ray, and Better Homes and Gardens. Carrie Pacini runs business operations for the brand and is the experiential director for all things Mom 2.0 events and client campaigns. She's launched and produced numerous industry conferences, campaigns, and digital networks. And she's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Mashable, Parent and Child Magazine, The Today Show, and more. And she was the 2016 winner of Bon Appetit Magazine's Reader's Choice Award. I want to just kind of delve into who you were growing up. So we'll start with Laura. What was your childhood like, and did it foreshadow what you're doing now?
My childhood, I grew up in a very small town. In fact, like the first 6 years, I think there were 300 people in my town, and I was probably related to at least half of them. And so I grew up in a town called Lockhart that's right outside of Boston, and it's actually turned into this really cool artist town, but it was not that way growing up in the 70s and 80s. I don't know. I think I had like a very normal, boring growing up, like very typical small town growing up lifestyle. But I will say, like, what that had prepared me for what we do now is when you grow up in a small town, you know everyone, they know you. I can remember a time like sitting in my parents' office in the little downtown square, and someone walked by down the street, and I was like, who is that? They do not live here. I remember having that cognizant thought that like, that is a person I don't know. Weird. Like, and this is obviously, before the internet and before anything. This was the 70s and 80s. I don't know, I think there was this automatic interest in different people and community. Like, I really think I didn't understand until much later how well you get community and you understand community and you value community when you grow up in such a tight-knit community where you know everyone and everyone's so connected, literally sometimes so connected. Yeah. And so I think that that's really been that was super formative to me growing up, and then working with Carrie on a community of moms for so many years. There's so many just little small intrinsic things that you learn from that experience.
And Carrie, what about you? Are there any anecdotes that kind of come to mind?
Well, I was part of the latchkey kid generation. So watching my mother kind of try to figure out how to work and how to keep a home and how to be there for us, watching that struggle, watching her do that, I wanted something different. I knew that other women wanted something different because there really wasn't a network for that. There wasn't anyone that was there supporting that. And so I knew that when I kind of, I was expecting my first son, or my only son, when I was expecting my first child, I wanted to figure out a way where I didn't have to experience what my mother went through. And I know that wasn't just for me, but a lot of other women were wanting that too. It's like, where is there a place where you have the space to be a mom, but also not giving up your career, not giving up your career path, not giving up the conversations about your career. It's like, yeah, I love talking about motherhood. I enjoy talking about being a mom, but I also, there's more to me. So I think that really shaped where I was landing with what building the community with Laura was, keeping those things in mind. That was kind of where I came from on it, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And so then tell us about the happenstance that happened when you met, and it was at a conference, predominantly with male attendees, and you two clicked instantly.
Gosh. Okay. So Laura and I, at the same time, were in startups. Okay. So we were both in these startups that Laura was working a job. I was trying to figure out things. Like, it was crazy times, right? We would go to these tech meetups, right? That's where Laura and I, met, because we were really the only women in the room. It was just full of men, and it was interesting. We kind of bonded there over that and started having conversations and really kind of figuring out where we were both landing in that process. Before that, I will say that I was attending marketing conferences, looking at that and seeing there really wasn't any tracks per se that were speaking to moms, and where moms were bloggers at the time, there was a disconnect. And I was seeing that wasn't happening. I know, Laura, you saw things on your side of the aisle that weren't happening. And we really connected on that, really had a lot of good brainstorming around it.
Yeah, it was Carrie actually who was like, we should go have coffee. And so we did. And it was so cool to talk to Carrie, because she has a really smart and interesting perspective on things. And she has such a great tactical, practical, operational mind about how, like, if you could cast a vision, and she's like, oh, here's here's how everything falling into place. It's amazing. It was interesting. What I was doing at the time, besides on the, everyone was hustling and starting things, and it was like the Wild West of startups. And my full-time gig at that point was I was working at a public relations firm. I was the vice president of PR at a marketing agency, actually. We were seeing media changing. This was 2005, 2006, 2007. We're like, oh, blogging there's such a democratization of it, and platforms were being created, and more people were starting to do it. And we, on our end, we're like, oh, media is changing, guys. The people that you're pitching in the media relations department, you need to include not just the managing editor of parenting, you need to include these 50 parent blogs or whatever. It just was a brand new thing, totally shifted in an industry. And so watching that and seeing oh, not everyone knows how to talk to each other in these situations. PR people are pitching bloggers like they pitch managing editors, and bloggers are receiving these pitches going, what the heck is this? I don't even know what to do with this. Some of the pitches were great and some of them were not great. And it was hard to know the difference. So we were just we need to get everyone in the room and just have a conversation about best practices, because we saw clearly that it was oh, this hobbyist culture was turning into an industry. And there wasn't a professional conversation that was happening about it, tactical conversation about what that meant. And there wasn't a leaders conference. So,
well, I wanted to just touch on the blog that you had, because I feel like, it actually brings a different perspective when you are a content creator yourself. And it was Blog on Queso.
Yeah. It started when I was on maternity leave. My son was born in 2005 and I had a very generous maternity leave from this women-led, women-owned company that I was working for, this marketing firm. She was a mom of 3 and she was like, you need some time. Here's a very generous maternity leave. And I had been working since I was like 14. And so I didn't know what to do. My baby was a great sleeper. And I all of a sudden had all this time and I was Googling things like, what's too much sleep? And what do you do in this? And, just Googling things. And at the time, all blogs came to the top of Google searches because it was constant. It just, the algorithm was changing and it turned into like, oh, they're posting a lot. They're rising to the top. It worked really well with the current algorithm then. And so I discovered mom blogs and I was reading them, I was learning about them. And then about 6 months later, I started one just for my sister who lived in Boston at the time to see pictures of her nephew. Yeah. So I got in quite early in the whole mom blogging sphere and was a content creator for fun, for just to have a creative outlet and to document stuff. It really was a documentation thing because I was not a scrapbooker by any stretch. And I was like, well, I can't do that, but I can type things and add photos. And I just thought it was so much fun and met so many interesting people who have gone on to do all kinds. I mean, it's just like the very first person to leave a comment on my blog ever was Reed Drummond, who's now the Pioneer Woman. It was that kind of small town, back to the small town.
Right.
Yeah. And that blog was delightful. And as my son grew up and was like, I don't really want to be on, it didn't work for our family anymore because and the internet changed. I mean, it became not a small town. And I was like, oh, this town's a little bit too big for me. I think I'm shut down. So, but it was great to be a part of that for 10 years from the very beginning.
And Carrie, could you shed light on, your motherhood experience and certain things that you kind of adopted along the way as a new mom?
Well, I mean, motherhood it's fun. It's interesting. And, it's always changing. You're always learning. It's hard to do, but being able to step back and look at your children and being able to evaluate who they are and help them be the best versions of who they can be without imparting your dreams and goals onto them, that is something I've been learning and continue to learn. And that's also one of the challenges, I think, of motherhood is being able to say like, okay, you're an individual, you're this human that I want to respect and give you the space to be who you want to be and also support you.
And then, I feel so fascinated that you both felt compelled to create a safe space for all moms because it was something you were yearning for and you thought bigger and said, okay, we can open this up and have so many people be part of this community. So tell us about that moment that you said, okay, we're going to launch this first Mom 2.0 Summit and, see where the ships land.
Back when we started the conference, it was really, I think Laura said this early on, it was about getting everyone in the room to have a conversation because we were noticing that, the brands and the marketers were talking to each other, but they weren't talking to, at the time, content creators were bloggers. They weren't really talking to them. The bloggers at the time were not really understanding how they could monetize their content or how they could monetize their site. A lot was kind of happening at the same time. And that's where Laura and I were talking, like, we could see that. We're like, oh my, let's get everyone in the room and let's start having these conversations. So, I feel like we really innovated in that way because no one was doing that for moms at that time. I thought that was really important to the industry, was to bring a leaders conference summit, to bring that in 2009. And yeah, Laura and I could say we didn't really know exactly what we were doing, and we probably didn't. We were really experimenting. It was we were trying to see like, could this work? And is this something that people need? We'll find out. That's kind of how we approached it. It's like, let's just see what's going to happen. That happens in almost every industry and every business. Like, you experiment, right? You kind of just throw it out there, see what happens, learn from it. And obviously we learned this was something that was needed. And I really feel like it's still needed today as the industry has evolved and changed. but the need is still there.
Yeah. And tell us about the upcoming conference in Scottsdale.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
super excited about it. We actually just got back from a planning trip where we got to like stay at the resort, experience it, plan what we want to do. I mean, you cannot not have a great time, I think, in that environment.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great. So our dates are actually May 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing a fall special that's going to open in October 5th. So that's going to last until the 20th. That's about 2 weeks, right, Laura?
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks. And that'll be $200 off, but just our fall special so we think of it as like $200 to spend on an outfit, or 2 or 3 that you want to wear to mom too, or save it for like the spa at the place. This hotel is amazing. And this resort and the conference center, they're incredible. I'm so excited about this. We kind of go back and forth between like downtown city locations and resort locations. And just because of the pandemic and the way things fell out and our wrinkle in time of the 2 years of pandemic, we just haven't been to a resort in a while.
Yeah.
And this one is incredible. It's a JW Marriott, and it's one of the only properties that the Marriott family still owns. They own it, and they have it is like family camp for them. Like their patriarch, who just turned 90, they had his 90th birthday there, and the whole family was there. They were, at the whole place. Anyway, so it's a very special property. Like it feels very special, and it's super inspiring. Every fall we do a call for speakers and call for topics, and it's always an interesting state of the union to kind of get back what people want to talk about next year and what they're interested in and what mediums they're really focusing on, they want to learn more about, what issues are coming up, what questions they have, different things. When we put out this call for speakers and call for topics, we get such a great snapshot of the state of the industry. And so that we're doing that in October 1st, it opens and it closes on October 31st. And it's a great time. You can find information about it on mom2.com, but it's a great place that people can pitch to speak or pitch someone else they want to hear speak or pitch for ideas. And so we're kind of at that point. Then we look at it and we're like, okay, what do people want to talk about? What's going on? What's the state of the industry? And then we'll build our content at that point.
Tell us about a mom sense moment that you've had.
I think for me, just at one point there, I pulled back and I was like, okay, I have a full-time job. I have this part-time gig. I've got this other thing we're trying to do. I need to pull back and create my life and create a structure around what would work best for my family. So I quit my full-time vice president job, which was really scary, and pulled back to do Mom 2.0 full time. It was scary, but it was also a great time to really focus the structure of the architecture of my day and the architecture of my year around the school year and around my son was transitioning at that point to, he was 4, but doing that kind of moving to do Mom 2 full time with another mom and partnered with another mom to be able to create a schedule and have open communication around our own needs to develop something that worked around the school year. And we kind of worked the school year at that point. And we work more now because our kids are older and it's different. But at that time, just having the faith to develop something and put my energies in something that also worked really well for the architecture of our family.
Right. So true. Is there a quote that you live by?
I do. I have a few that I like, but the one that is really resonating with me now, because I think they hit me differently, is you exist only in what you do. And that hits me right now because it's like, okay, what I do and how I leave you, how I have an interaction with you, that's how I exist with you.
Yes.
And I don't know. There's something about that kind of gets me to cut to what's important. It's like all the other stuff goes away. I'm like, oh, that's important.
And Mom Hall is just a fun segment where you can share anything that you're loving right now. And it could be a product or an app or just something you've come across that's been a game changer for you right now.
This is Granther's Pastels.
Oh.
And we missed COVID, thankfully. And we finally all got it at the same time this summer. And a friend of mine, Murdoch, recommended this to me. And they are these sugar-free Swedish gummies, basically for throat and voice. And they're called Granther's Pastels. And they are so great. And I have them by my desk all the time. And actually, I just Googled the other day how to say that, Granther's Pastels. I was like, how do you say this word? And I saw like Ariana Grande uses them for her throat, and Gwyneth Paltrow and all these like super famous people use them. But it's like the best. It's not a cough drop. It's more just like help your throat, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm not selling them. They're amazing. We started taking them when we had COVID this summer, and they are game changers.
I do like right now. It's very I like the J-Lo mask. It really works. I really think that one works. A makeup artist that I was talking to was like, all the brides, that's what they're using.
Yeah. And then now, so what is the legacy you'd love to leave in this world?
One thing that I'm here to do is help project other voices, especially voices that are underrepresented in whatever way. That's the core of Mom Too. At the same time, we would joke about like, we're just building a stage and getting the smartest, most interesting people we know to stand up on that stage, and we're getting out of the way and letting them talk and connect with each other. And I really feel like that's been a core mission of Mom Too from the beginning. But I think in whatever medium and in whatever way is to really use my platform, use my voice, use my little part, use what I have, my little part of the world to help project other women specifically, but other voices that just are underrepresented in whatever way and they don't have a microphone.
I mean, the community that you've built through Mom Too is a legacy that we will carry forward for generations to come. I don't see it going anywhere. And so know that. I mean, I just turned 40, and I love that there's moms of all age groups and backgrounds there, and we see each other, and that's never going to change.
I love that blessing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on That's Total Mom Sense. And, I can't wait for Scottsdale and all the events that we have coming up. And I'm here for you. And so is my audience. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us into your community. Thank you so much.
Well, moms and moms to be, now you know about the best summit nationwide, Mom 2.0. Carrie, Laura, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast and sharing all of your insights as mothers, as media mavens and professionals and entrepreneurs and creators. At the end of the day, I think that's what drives us the most. Yes, we've created life, but we're also creating our lives and all the enterprises involved in that. And I think it's wonderful to be able to be part of this collective and embrace everyone's success, because it means something different for every single one of us. So if you want to learn more about Mom Too, you can follow them on Instagram. It's at Mom2, the number 2, Summit. You can follow Carrie, Carrie Pacini, Carrie Pacini on Instagram, and at Laura Mays, LauraMays. And for all the information you need to know, if you want to attend the upcoming summit this spring, you want to apply to be a speaker, you want to get a panel together, whatever it is, all of that info is available at mom2.com. You can follow me at Kanika Chadda Gupta on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. And all of the information related to this podcast is available on that'stotalmomsense.com. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review That's Total Mom Sense. It helps a ton with the algorithms that are ever changing. And if you need a guide to do this on Apple Podcasts, you can just hop on to that'stotalmomsense.com/iTunes. And I have a cheat sheet for you. If you have any ideas for show topics or celebrities that you just can't wait to have on my show, write to me. I want to hear from you. My email is thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And yes, I read all the messages along with my team members, and we will get back to every single one of them. So thank you for being part of my tribe and my community and helping me create content that resonates and lands with you. That's why I do it. As always, trust your mom sense and dad sense. Stay strong, super parents. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @Kanika Chadda Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.